So a brand new test, an eventful opening day, and the same conclusion at the end of the day that we had after first day's play in the earlier three tests also. And that conclusion is the game is too evenly matched to call any team to be favorite at the end of the first day. So neither team has an edge over the other. Yes, at 264 for 4, India can consider themselves to be slightly dominant position, to be in a slightly dominant position because of the fact that the pitch had some grass. It was helping the seam bowlers a little bit, and there was overcast conditions, and England won the toss and got a chance to utilize those conditions and put India into bat. And it was a tricky first session for India on the first day of a test on a slightly helpful pitch for bowlers. But India managed to withstand that attack from the English pace bowlers and went on to score 264 for 4. So naturally they would consider themselves to be in a much better position after losing the toss. But then if you really consider all the factors together and do a little deep dive into what actually has happened in beyond the scorecard, then you will feel that India may not be as dominant as it would look by the sheer look of the scorecard. Because 264 for 4 is what scorecard is showing, but it can be technically 264 for 5 if Rishabh Pant, who has suffered such a serious injury that he was not been able to stand on his feet after getting that injury, and he had to retire hurt at 37. He may not be able to resume tomorrow, and if he is unable to resume tomorrow in the first innings at least, then you can consider the total to be technically 264 for 5, and then you just have Shardul Thakur, Jadeja, who are actually all-rounders, out of which Shardul is actually bowling all-rounder, and then there is Washington Sundar, who can be a decent all-rounder, and he can really chip in with some good scores. And after that there is only three tail-enders who are genuine tail-enders, who are not known to be scoring any kind of contribution or giving any contribution with their bat. So that means England can consider themselves to be very much in the game, and it is not actually a game where India has managed to snatch the initiative. And also the fact, let's not forget, that the new ball is already due and England was not able to take it in the fag end of the day because of the light conditions. So the first thing they will do in the morning is to claim the second new ball, and they will have Archer, Works, Stokes and Cars all fresh and fit and ready to go at the lower middle order of Indian batting. And if Rishabh Pant is unable to resume, and if they can utilize the new ball better than what they did in the first session of the first day with a little better line and length, then they can really snatch a couple of wickets in the first half an hour, and that they would be aiming for. And if they manage to take a couple of wickets in the first half an hour with the new ball, then they would have a look in at the tail end with the genuine tail enders that India has, who are not known to be scoring big, and then they can really hope to reduce India to a total of 300 to 325. And if that happens, they would be more than happy to consider themselves as favorites, because then they would be more than happy to give that total to India after winning the toss and putting India into bat, because that would definitely be a subpar total. Even if we consider that India is going to bowl fourth in this test match and they would have spinners to utilize the pitch, which looks slightly dry and may help the spinners. But 300 to 325 would definitely be a kind of total which England would be more than happy to let India score, because then they can really score big in the first innings itself and then put more pressure on India, and then they can control the games thereafter. So yes, it depends on how the game pans out tomorrow in the first hour. On the other hand, if India manages to show the same kind of resilience that they showed in the first hour itself in the first day, where they didn't allow the English seamers to take any wicket, then they can really manage to put pressure back on England. The bowlers would start getting tired, the ball would start getting softer, and then Jadeja and Washington Sundar and Shardul then would be very much capable of scoring fast and brisk, because it would be easier to score against the new ball. And if that happens and they can get the same kind of resilient support from Bumrah and Siraj that they got in the Lord's Test, then India can hope to reach even 400. And if India manages to reach 400, considering the fact that England has to bat fourth, then England would need to score more than 400, much more than 400, to have that kind of a buffer for their fourth innings. And that would then put real pressure on them against quality bowling of Bumrah, Siraj, and also the two spinners that India has. And England is known to be struggling against the spinners in the third or fourth innings of any test match. so they would not be comfortable, and then that would put India in a driver's position. So yes, today technically India may be slightly favored, but tomorrow the first session will decide which team is really going to be called a favorite. And let us also go back to the day to see which team could have actually had the much bigger pie, which team could have really snatched the initiative and could have really gone ahead and become the favorite today. And if you look at, either team had chances, and both the teams would be feeling little disappointed for not able to utilize the chance they got. For example, India might have reached 264 for 4, but just take down or note the scores that the frontline batters scored. There were Jaiswal, who scored 58, Rahul 46, and then Sai Sudarshan 61 and Rishabh Pant 37. Only Rishabh Pant got retired out, so you cannot blame him. But the rest of the three frontline batters, they all managed to bat the difficult time of the day. They managed to navigate the difficult period of their batting. That was in the beginning. They batted enough balls to score near 50 or beyond 50, and yet they all got surrendered. They all got dismissed at the around score of 46 to 61, which is not a total where a frontline batter should get dismissed. Once you score your first 30 to 40 runs, you should then go on to score a big 100, so that you can put your team at a commanding position. But again, it looks the batters had a little complacency, or they had a lapse of concentration, or they lacked application or the hunger to stay in there to score a big after doing the hard work and scoring the first 50, close to 50 runs so easily. They should have actually cashed in on that great start they had, and that could have actually put India in a commanding position. Now, looking at the way they got dismissed and looking at the way they have finally got India to a position of 264 for 4, which is not a very commanding position, may not be a bad position, but not a commanding position. It reminds one of the kind of situation that India allowed itself to be in the first innings and the second innings of the first test, where they all scored well. The frontline batters, they batted well, they scored some centuries also, but when the chance was there to really finish up the game and completely seal the game, they fumbled, and they allowed that crucial moments to lose concentration and get dismissed. That included even Shubman Gill, who scored a brilliant century, and which he also acknowledged in the second test, and that's where he really compensated those mistakes by scoring a big double century and helped India to reach a total where India had completely grabbed the initiative, and that they had failed to do in the first test. They did the good work in the second test, but again it looks in the fourth test they did the similar kind of errors, and they allowed the English team to come back by getting dismissed at very unwarranted situation or undesirable situation after doing the hard work. So if India tomorrow fails to capitalize on the kind of score they have today and they get dismissed for 300 to 325, then they would look back at the day one, and then they would blame themselves for getting dismissed at scores where they had no business to get dismissed, because they were completely dominating the game and they should have gone on to score big. Now coming to England, they also have reasons to feel disappointed, because they have managed to put India 264-4 or maybe effectively 264-5, which is a pretty decent effort, and they can also hope to cash in on with the new ball to dismiss India for 300-325. But if they fail to do so, they will look back at day one and think maybe the catch they dropped of Sai Sudarshan when he was just 20 runs, he was at 20, was a very expensive one, because Sai Sudarshan had already gone on to score 61, that means he added 41, and also that was his individual addition, and then he had such a brilliant partnership with Rishabh Pant, where they managed to take the game away from England to a large extent before the Rishabh Pant's unfortunate injury. So if England fails to capitalize and fails to restrict India tomorrow, and India manages to reach 400, then England would be disappointed for the catch they dropped. That is, Jamie Smith dropped a sitter of Ben Stokes when he dropped Sai Sudarshan at 20, and if he had dismissed then maybe India would have been 6 or 7 wickets down at the end of the day, and the game would have been firmly in England's favour. So yes, it was a kind of a day where both the teams should have reasons to feel comfortable and satisfied, but not elated. Both the teams should have reasons to feel slightly somber and disappointed, but both the teams should still have hope and optimism for the next day, where they can really recapture and reclaim the initiative in a decisive way. But we will find out it only tomorrow. So for that we have to wait. Thank you.